The dust came in black waves. Ronan Vex pulled his scarf tighter across his face and squinted through the toxic haze that rolled across the surface of Sindara, like a living thing. The mining moon's atmosphere had been poisoned decades ago by corporate extraction, leaving behind only ruins and the desperate few who picked through them. He was one of those few, a salvager, a survivor, a man who'd learned to ask for nothing and expect less. His boots crunched over crystallized slag. As he made his way back toward the shelter, a half-buried cargo container he'd converted into something almost livable. The storm was getting worse. He needed to seal the vents before the dust got inside and turned his lungs to stone. That's when he saw the shape. At first, he thought it was just another piece of wreckage, something thrown loose by the wind. But as he got closer, Ronan realized it was a body curled on its side near the skeletal remains of a shuttle. A woman, from what he could tell, though her features were hidden beneath layers of grime and ash. He knelt beside her, checking for a pulse at her throat. Faint, but there. "Hey," he said, his voice rough from disuse. "Can you hear me?" She didn't respond, but her chest rose and fell in shallow breaths. Ronan didn't think twice. He hooked his arms beneath her and lifted, surprised by how light she was. Through the dust coating her skin, he caught glimpses of an unusual shade, something between violet and deep plum. An alien, then one of the refugees from the fallen empires. Probably he carried her back to his shelter and kicked the door shut behind him, sealing out the storm. Inside, the air was cleaner, filtered through a salvaged life support system he'd pieced together over the years. He laid her carefully on his cot and stepped back. Studying her properly for the first time, even covered in filth, she was striking. Her features were delicate but strong, and her skin, where he could see it through the dust, was indeed a deep purple hue. Her hair, matted and gray with ash, might have been dark violet underneath. She wore tattered clothing that might have once been elegant. Ronan grabbed a basin and filled it with precious clean water from his reserve. He found her rag the cleanest he had and brought them over. Gently, he began wiping the dust from her face, revealing more of that remarkable purple skin. Her eyes fluttered open large, luminous, in the color of molten gold. They stared at each other for a long moment. Then Ronan offered the simplest thing he had. "There's soap," he said quietly, "and more water. You're safe here." She blinked slowly, as if trying to process his words through layers of exhaustion. Then, to his surprise, a single tear traced down her cheek. Cutting a clean line through the remaining dust, 3 days passed like a gentle dream. Ronan had expected his guest to leave as soon as the storm cleared, but she stayed. She told him her name on the second morning lyre, whispered like a secret as she sat wrapped in his spare blanket. Lean at last. Her purple skin gleamed in the dim light of the shelter, and her hair fell in waves of deep violet around her shoulders. She ate sparingly. The rations he offered her, and watched him with those impossible golden eyes. He tried not to stare, but it was difficult. He'd been alone for so long that having another person in his space felt surreal. And having someone like her, beautiful, mysterious, clearly from somewhere far beyond this dead moon, felt like something out of a fever dream. "Why are you here?" she asked on the third evening, as they sat beside the small heating unit he used for warmth. "On this place, it's dying," Ronan shrugged, poking at the glowing coil with a metal rod. "Got nowhere else to be. Sometimes dying places are the safest." Lyra studied him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. "You've been kind to me. You didn't have to be. Didn't have to not be either." He glanced at her. "You feeling better?" "Yes." She pulled the blanket tighter, though he noticed she'd moved closer to him over the past few days. Close enough now that their shoulders almost touched. "Ronan, I need to tell you something." He waited, watching the play of light across her face. "I'm not just a refugee. My people, we're called the Ethrians. We're gone now. Extinct." Her voice caught on the word. "I'm the last." Ronan felt something tightened in his chest. "Last? There's no one else?" "No one who can, ... She trailed off, then extended her arm. In the firelight, he saw something he hadn't noticed before, faint patterns beneath her skin, circuitry or veins of light barely visible. As he watched, they seemed to pulse gently. This started happening after you found me. It hasn't happened in 40 years. What is it? A sign. She turned to face him fully, and he saw fear and hope warring in those golden eyes. My people, we were different. Our biology was tied to emotion, to connection. When we felt true kindness, true care, our bodies responded. These marks, they mean, I'm awakening. Ronan stared at the luminescent patterns tracing delicate lines up her arm, disappearing beneath the sleeve of the shirt he'd given her. Awakening to what? To what I was meant to be. What I've been hiding from. Lyra reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away, and placed her hand over his. Her skin was warm, softer than he'd expected. The last matriarch of my people. The last one who can bring them back. The words should have frightened him, should have sent him running. Instead, Ronan found himself turning his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. I don't understand half of what you're saying, he admitted, but I know you've been hurt. I know you're scared. And I know that whatever this is, he gestured to the glowing patterns now spreading slowly across her collarbone. You don't have to face it alone. Lyra's breath caught. She leaned forward, and for a moment, Ronan thought she might kiss him. His heart hammered against his ribs. Instead, she pressed her forehead to his, and he felt the warmth of her, the faint vibration of something powerful stirring beneath her skin. You don't know what you're offering, she whispered. Then tell me. Outside, the wind howled through the ruins. Inside, the space between them crackled with possibility. 3 days passed like a gentle dream. Ronan had expected his guest to leave as soon as the storm cleared, but she stayed. She told him her name on the second morning. Lyra whispered like a secret as she sat wrapped in his spare blanket, clean at last. Her purple skin gleamed in the dim light of the shelter, and her hair fell in waves of deep violet around her shoulders. She ate sparingly. The rations he offered her, and watched him with those impossible golden eyes. He tried not to stare, but it was difficult. He'd been alone for so long that having another person in his space felt surreal. And having someone like her beautiful, mysterious, clearly, from somewhere far beyond this dead moon felt like something out of a fever dream. Why are you here? She asked on the third evening as they sat beside the small heating unit he used for warmth. On this place? It's dying, Ronan shrugged, poking at the glowing coil with a metal rod. Got nowhere else to be. Sometimes dying places are the safest. Lyra studied him with an intensity that made his skin prickle. You've been kind to me. You didn't have to be. Didn't have to not be either. He glanced at her. You feeling better? Yes. She pulled the blanket tighter, though he noticed she'd moved closer to him over the past few days. Close enough now that their shoulders almost touched. Ronan, I need to tell you something. He waited, watching the play of light across her face. I'm not just a refugee. My people, we were called the Athreans. We're gone now. Extinct. Ro's voice caught on the word. I'm the last. Ronan felt something tighten in his chest. Last? There's no one else? No one who can, ... She trailed off, then extended her arm. In the firelight he saw something he hadn't noticed before. Faint patterns beneath her skin. Like circuitry or veins of light, barely visible. As he watched, they seemed to pulse gently. This started happening after you found me. It hasn't happened in 40 years. What is it? A sign. She turned to face him fully, and he saw fear and hope warring in those golden eyes. My people, we were different. Our biology was tied to emotion, to connection. When we felt true kindness, true care, our bodies responded. These marks, they mean I'm awakening. Ronan stared at the luminescent patterns tracing delicate lines up her arm, disappearing beneath the sleeve of the shirt he'd given her. Awakening to what? To what I was meant to be. What I've been hiding from. Lyra reached out slowly, giving him time to pull away, and placed her hand over his. Her skin was warm, softer than he'd expected. The last matriarch of my people. The last one who can bring them back. The words should have frightened him, should have sent him running. Instead, Ronan found himself turning his hand over, threading his fingers through hers. I don't understand half of what you're saying, he admitted, But I know you've been hurt. I know you're scared. And I know that whatever this is, he gestured to the glowing patterns now spreading slowly across her collarbone.
Oh.
You don't have to face it alone. Lyra's breath caught. She leaned forward, and for a moment, Ronan thought she might kiss him. His heart hammered against his ribs. Instead, she pressed her forehead to his. And he felt the warmth of her, the faint vibration of something powerful stirring beneath her skin. You don't know what you're offering, she whispered. Then tell me. Outside, the wind howled through the ruins. Inside, the space between them crackled with possibility. The next morning, Lyra showed him everything. They sat together in the pale light filtering through the shelter's single viewport. And she spoke of things that sounded like mythology, civilization built on emotional resonance. A people who could create life not through simple reproduction, but through a profound connection of souls. The Etherians had been hunted for it, she explained. Other races feared their power, envied their ability to thrive through bonds rather than conquest. They called it the cleansing, Lyra said, her voice hollow. Systematic genocide. They sterilized our worlds, poisoned our genetic lines. Within a generation, we couldn't conceive. Within 2, there were only a handful of us left. She touched the glowing marks that now covered most of her arms, creeping up her neck like delicate vines. I was the youngest of the matriarchs. They told me to hide, to suppress my biology, to never let anyone close enough to trigger the awakening. Ronan listened, his chest tight. But I triggered it, yes. She looked at him with such raw vulnerability that it stole his breath. You offered me water and soap, Ronan. You asked for nothing. You've shown me more genuine kindness in 3 days than I've known in 40 years of hiding. My body recognized you as someone safe. Someone ... Worthy? Worthy of what? Lyra stood, and the patterns on her skin blazed brighter, casting purple and gold light across the walls. Of being my bondmate. Of helping me restore my people. The prophecy said that the last matriarch would find one whose heart was pure, who gave without seeking gain. That person would be the key to our rebirth. Ronan rose slowly, his mind reeling. I'm nobody, Lyra. I'm a salvager on a dead moon. I can barely keep myself alive. You're someone who found a dying stranger and brought her home. She stepped closer, and he could feel the heat radiating from her marked skin. You're someone who offered comfort without asking why I was there or what I could give you in return. Do you know how rare that is? In all the galaxy, Ronan, that is the rarest thing of all. He should have backed away. Should have told her she had the wrong person, that prophecies were just stories people told themselves. Instead, he reached up and cupped her face in his rough, scarred hands. I don't care about prophecies, he said hoarsely. These past few days, having you here, it's been the first time in years I haven't felt alone. The first time I've wanted to wake up and see another morning. That's not about your people, or your biology, or any of it. That's just ... you. Lyra's eyes shimmered with tears. Ronan ... He kissed her. It was gentle at first, tentative, as if they were both afraid the moment might shatter. But then she made a soft sound against his mouth and pressed closer, and everything else fell away. Her skin was warm beneath his hands, almost feverish, and he felt the luminescent patterns pulse in rhythm with both their heartbeats. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, the marks had spread to cover her entire body. Glowing through the fabric of her clothes, "They'll come for me now," Lyra whispered, though she didn't move from his embrace. The awakening sends out a signal. The hunters who finished my people, they have sensors designed to detect it. They'll come to finish what they started. Ronan tightened his arms around her. Then we run. Where? Anywhere. Everywhere. He pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. I've got a ship barely flies, but it's fast enough. We can disappear into the fringe territories, hide in the gaps between systems. They'll never stop looking. I don't care. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, the glowing marks at her temples. I'm not letting them take you. As if summoning his words into reality, a low vibration shook the shelter. Through the viewport, lights appeared in the black skyships dropping out of hyperspace, their scanners already painting the surface below. Lyra grabbed his hand, her expression fierce despite the fear in her eyes. Then, we run now. They burst from the shelter into the toxic air, running toward Ronan's hidden hangar as the first hunter ships descended through Sindara's poisoned atmosphere like mechanical vultures, hungry for the last ember of a dying people. The ship lurched into the sky with a scream of protesting engines. Ronan gripped the controls, coaxing every ounce of speed from the battered cargo hauler he'd christened the Drift Runner years ago. Behind them, Sindara's surface receded, and with it came 3 sleek hunter vessels, their hulls marked with the crimson insignia of the Reclamation Syndicate, the organization that had orchestrated the Etherian extinction. "Hold on," Ronan shouted, throwing the ship into a barrel roll as plasma fire streaked past the view screen. Lyra strapped herself into the co-pilot's seat, her glowing marks casting eerie light across the cockpit. "Head for the asteroid belt. We can lose them in the debris field." He didn't question her. The connection between them had deepened since that kiss, as if some invisible thread now bound their instincts together. Ronan punched the throttle and dove toward the dense ring of broken rock that orbited Sindara's parent planet. The asteroids came at them like a wall of stone and ice. Ronan threaded the ship between tumbling boulders the size of cities, his reflexes sharp from years of desperate salvage runs. Behind them, 2 of the hunter ships fell back, unwilling to risk the dangerous maze, but the third, the lead vessel, followed with predatory determination. "They're persistent," Ronan muttered, yanking the controls hard to port as a chunk of ice exploded against their shields. "They're terrified," Lyra said quietly. "My people could create life through pure, emotional resonance. They see that as a weapon, something that could upset the balance of power in the galaxy. They won't stop until I'm dead." Ronan glanced at her, saw the resignation in her golden eyes, and felt anger flare hot in his chest. Not happening. There's an abandoned station on the other side of this field-old mining outpost. We can hide there until they give up the search. It took another 20 minutes of heart-stopping flying, but they finally broke free of the asteroid belt, limped toward the skeletal remains of Station Epsilon 7. Ronan guided the Drift Runner into an empty hangar bay, killed the engines, and sat back with a shaky exhale. "We made it," Lyra breathed. For a moment, they just sat there, the silence broken only by the cooling tick of the engines. Then Ronan reached over and took her hand, marveling at how natural it felt, how right. "Come on," he said softly. "Let's find somewhere to catch our breath." The station was a ghost, its corridors dark and cold, but Ronan found a small crew quarters that still had functional life support. He sealed the door behind them and activated the emergency lighting, casting the room in a soft blue glow. Lyra sank onto the narrow bunk, exhaustion finally catching up with her. The luminescent patterns on her skin pulsed more slowly now, as if responding to their temporary safety. Ronan sat beside her, close enough that their knees touched. "Tell me about them," he said quietly. "Your people. Not the prophecy or the biology, just what they were like." A small smile touched her lips. "They were beautiful. Not just in appearance, though we were that too." She laughed softly. "We loved deeply, felt everything intensely. When an Etherian bonded with someone, it was forever not out of obligation. But because the connection literally became part of who we were. Our cities were filled with music and gardens. We built through cooperation, created art that could make you weep just by looking at it. It sounds incredible, it was." Her smile faded, and now it's gone. Just stories and memories carried by the last of us. She turned to face him fully, her golden eyes searching his. "Ronan, if this awakening completes, if the prophecy is real, lie could bring them back. But it requires a bonding, a true one. Not just physical, but a melding of souls." His heart thundered. "With me?" "Yes." She reached up, tracing the line of his jaw with gentle fingers. "The prophecy says the matriarch will know her mate by the purity of his heart. I knew the moment you offered me that soap and water. The moment you looked at me like I mattered, not like I was a prize or a threat. Just a person who needed help." Ronan caught her hand, pressed a kiss to her palm. "I'm scared," he admitted. "Not of you or the bonding or any of it. I'm scared that I'm not enough, that I'll fail you. You've already saved me." Lyra leaned forward, her forehead touching his. "Everything after this is just us choosing each other. No prophecy required." He kissed her then, deeper than before, and she responded with a hunger that matched his own. They fell back onto the bunk together, hands exploring, barriers falling away. Her skin was warm beneath his touch, the luminescent marks growing brighter as their connection deepened.
Oh.
When they finally came together, it was with a tenderness that transcended simple desire. It was recognition, acceptance, the merging of two souls who had been searching for home and found it in each other. Afterward, they lay tangled together in the dim light, her head on his chest, his fingers trailing through her violet hair. "The marks," she whispered. "They've stopped spreading." Ronan looked down and saw it was true. The glowing patterns had stabilized, forming an intricate design across her skin like permanent tattoos, beautiful and complete. "What does that mean?" "It means the awakening is finished. I'm fully restored, not just fertile, but connected to the life force of my entire people." She lifted her head, and he saw tears streaming down her face. "It means you're truly my bondmate, Ronan Vex. Now and forever." He pulled her close, felt her heart beating against his. "Then we face whatever comes next together." Outside the station, the hunter ship drifted in the asteroid field, its sensors sweeping methodically for any sign of their prey. They were found at dawn. The station's alarm shrieked to life, and Ronan jerked awake to see red warning lights flashing across the viewport. 3 more hunter ships had joined the first, forming a blockade around Station Epsilon 7. "They've surrounded us," Lyra said, already pulling on her clothes. The luminescent marks on her skin glowed steady and bright now, like stars embedded in purple twilight. They must have tracked the energy signature from the bonding. Ronan grabbed his tool belt, not much of a weapon, but it was all he had. "Then we fight our way out." "No," she caught his arm, her expression fierce but calm. "There's another way. The old shrine world, 3-year prime. It's only 3 jumps from here. If we can reach it, I can use the ancient technology there to amplify my abilities. I can create a shield, something that will hide my signal permanently. And if they catch us before we get there," her jaw set, "then we make them regret it." They ran for the drift runner, boots pounding through empty corridors as the station shook from warning shots. Ronan fired up the engines the moment they hit the cockpit, not bothering with pre-flight checks. The ship rocketed from the hangar bay in a shower of sparks, immediately drawing fire from all 4 hunter vessels. Jump coordinates locked. Lyra shouted over the shriek of alarms, "Go!" The stars stretched into lines as they entered hyperspace, leaving the hunters behind. But Ronan knew they'd be waiting at the exit point. The Syndicate had resources, patience, and a pathological need to ensure the Etherians stayed extinct. The first 2 jumps were narrow escape-spree firefights as they dropped into normal space, calculated the next vector, and vanished again before the hunters could surround them. By the 3rd jump, the drift runner was limping, shields down to 30%, one engine misfiring badly. When they emerged above Ethria Prime, Ronan's breath caught. The planet was beautiful even in death. Its surface was scarred and lifeless. The oceans evaporated. The continents turned to ash. But in orbit hung the remains of massive structured space stations and satellites that must have once been magnificent, now skeletal and silent. There, Lyra pointed to the largest structure, a ring-shaped station still intact enough to have atmosphere. "The Heart Shrine. That's where we need to go." Ronan aimed for it, pushing the damaged ship as hard as he dared. Behind them, 6 hunter vessels dropped out of hyperspace in perfect formation. "They brought reinforcements," he growled. "They're afraid." "Good." Lyra's voice was hard as diamond. "Let them be afraid." They crashed more than landed in the shrine's docking bay, the drift runner finally giving up with a groan of tortured metal. Ronan grabbed Lyra's hand, and they ran into the station's interior, following her instincts through corridors that still hummed with residual power. The Heart Shrine was a massive chamber, its walls covered in the same luminescent patterns that marked Lyra's skin. At the center stood a circular platform surrounded by crystalline pillars that pulsed with faint, light-ancient Etherian technology. Still waiting after decades of silence, Stand in the center, Lyra said, pulling him forward. Whatever happens, don't let go of my hand.
Lyra, what are you?
The doors exploded inward. Hunter soldiers poured through, weapons raised, and at their head walked a figure in crimson armor, the Syndicate commander. The last matriarch, the commander said, voice distorted by his helmet's speakers. You've led us on quite a chase. But it ends here. Your kind is a threat to galactic stability. We cannot allow you to reproduce. You're afraid, Lyra said, stepping onto the platform and pulling Ronan with her. Afraid that a people who built through love instead of conquest would expose how hollow your empires are. How weak. Afraid. No. Pragmatic. The commander raised his weapon. Goodbye, Ethrian. Lyra threw her head back and released a sound that was not quite a scream, not quite a song. The luminescent marks on her skin blazed like suns, and the crystalline pillars erupted with answering light. Power flooded through the chamber, immense and utterly unstoppable. Ronan felt it surge through their joined hands, felt the bond between them become a conduit for something far greater than either of them alone. Around the platform, images began to form ghostly figures, purple-skinned and golden-eyed. Hundreds of them, thousands. The collective memory and genetic legacy of the entire Ethrian people, preserved in the shrine's technology, waiting for this moment. You wanted me dead because I can bring them back, Lyra said. And her voice echoed with the power of every lost soul standing behind her. But you misunderstood the prophecy. I don't bring them back through bearing children. I bring them back through the love of one person who saw me as worth saving, who gave me the strength to reclaim what was stolen. The ghostly figures grew more solid, more real. Not truly alive, but not just memories either, something in between. Sustained by the bond between Lyra and Ronan, by the raw power of their connection, amplified through ancient technology. The commander fired, but the bolt dissipated against a shield of pure light. Leave, Lyra commanded. Tell the galaxy that the Ethrians have returned. Not as conquerors, but as witnesses. We will remember what was done to us, and we will ensure it never happens to another people again. The hunters fled. When the light finally faded, Ronan and Lyra stood alone on the platform, still holding hands. The ghostly figures had vanished, but Ronan could feel them a presence in his mind. Ancient and vast, and surprisingly gentle. Are they? He started. They're preserved, Lyra said softly. Not alive, but not gone. The shrine will keep them in stasis until I can find a way to truly restore them. It could take years, decades. But now there's hope. She turned to him, and he saw tears streaming down her face. Because of you. Ronan pulled her close, buried his face in her violet hair. So what now? Now. She laughed through her tears. Now we find a way to live. Together. No prophecies. No running. Just us, trying to build something beautiful in a galaxy that needs more beauty. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. I can work with that. They left the shrine hand in hand, walking toward the damaged drift runner. It would take time to repair it, time to plan their next move. But for the first time and longer than either could remember, they had something precious. Time, hope, and each other. Above Ethria Prime, the stars burned cold and distant, but in the heart shrine, a new warmth had taken root, small and fragile. But growing stronger, with every beat of two hearts that had chosen love over fear, hope over extinction, the last ember had become a flame, and from that flame, perhaps one day, a people would rise again.